is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 159. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. He's sitting here on a Sunday afternoon, coming off a home loss at the hands of the Seattle Sounders. A lot to talk about today, but we'll start as we always do. How you feeling, my friend?
Oh, man, I'm conflicted, bit confused, trying to take in everything that took place last night, the extracurriculars, and then obviously trying to separate all that stuff from the game and how I felt about the performance from the team in a very important matchup versus a very good team. So gathering my thoughts here still, but ready to share them, however complete or incomplete, with the world.
All right. Well, we will make it through. We will talk about said extracurriculars, recap the loss against Seattle, preview Wednesday's Copa Tejas, hey, if you want to call it that, cup final on Wednesday up there in Frisco. A little last business day as well, and some nonsense at the end. Before we jump into today's episode, just want to remind you all the best way to support the podcast is by downloading the audio version of this episode wherever you get your podcasts. Helps us out with that ad revenue, which I will note. 2 notes on that, E. Number 1, apologies to everybody who's listening and got the mid-roll ads in the middle of one of your sentences last week, trying to get that straightened out. So hopefully, if you hear ads in this episode, they are a little bit smoother. But then second, our buddy Dylan did note to me, and to be honest, I'm not sure if he was just cracking a joke on us or not, but he goes, the first ad I heard on the North End podcast was for visitfrisco.com, which is what we're doing on Wednesday. So hopefully no more Frisco ads on the North End. And again, download the episode, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us grow the show, as does hitting the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. If you're watching there, you can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit the like button. The thumbs up helps us battle those YouTube algorithm overlords. Atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the togetherness of the North End. Midweek press availability, we did get Giassi Zardes, of course, coming off of his brace as the player made available. Both he and Coach Wolff gave us some updates / scouting reports on our new players. First, Coach Wolff talking about Alexander Svatak, asked, when's he going to show up? When are we going to see Svatak in Central Texas? He says, paperwork-wise, I have absolutely no idea. And I think he added, that's a roto question. So no roto for questions. We don't know. But he said, Svatak is a guy that's been playing. So from a physical standpoint, I don't think, other than acclimating to a little bit of the heat, he's been playing. He's been competing. Obviously, Svatak coming off the Euros there with Ukraine. He even voices that he wants to get in market as quick as he can because he knows he's in a good physical spot. So I don't like to hear that we don't have the expected arrival date, but good to hear that coach doesn't think it'll take him long to, be ready to play at least some minutes.
Yeah, and I'm excited that he's eager to get going and hit the ground running and everything. He feels in good shape, good form, and is ready to come in and start making an impact here for sure.
Then Giassi, of course, asked about Bukhari and Dessler as they have been in practice or had been in practice all week. Last week, we also, Josh also said that Bukhari was apparently on the trip to Kansas City last week to kind of, see how the road trip would go here in MLS. And I wonder how many people told him, yeah, you think this is a long trip to Kansas City? Just wait till we get some of those West Coast trips. But Giassi asked about his 2 new teammates. He said, I think I can speak for all my teammates that they're great additions. Buka, his speed for one, there's no doubt about it. He takes off, but his ball control as well. He keeps the ball very tight. And Dessler, his link-up play, running up and down the wings, I think both of them are getting used to the heat. It's exciting players and exciting times ahead. So even though we still had, of course, last night's game to deal with, we've got Frisco on Wednesday. He's sitting here as we speak, 6 days away from the potential debut of Osman Bukhari and Mikkel Dessler. So any thoughts on those those quotes that seem an eternity away at this point.
I mean, we've seen in the past that it takes a little while for Coach Wolff and his staff to get some guys acclimated into like how we want to play, our style, all of the training and all of that. But I think with these guys, you're just talking about a class of player that is just leaps and bounds beyond what we have available to us right now. So I think that they're going to be, put into the lineup sooner rather than later. I know that a couple episodes that you and I both went on record saying we expect starts from Buku and Dessler there.
Buku.
So,
We got
is
a
it
new
Buku?
One. Yeah, Buku.
Buka, sorry. So expecting starts from both of those guys, and then once Fatak gets rolled in here, I would assume that that's going to be a pretty fast acclimation and learning period for him as well to get him into the lineup.
Yeah, Josh did say, kind of like flashed a smile when he was talking about Osman, saying that at one point of a training session last week that he went from a dead stop to completely behind his defender with the ball in a span of 10 yards, he said. So
it's going to be fun.
Can't wait.
I harken back to the terrible RSL match, but just being able to watch those wingers that they have with just world-class speed flying up and down the wings there, and it just got me even more excited about getting Buka here. So looking forward to it for sure.
Oh, we've had Buka, we've had Buki, and we've had Ozzy. So the Buku could be coming right around the corner.
I'm just going to have to start calling him E.
Yeah. So then, we head into match day. We had for the first time all season an empty injury report, which was certainly exciting to see on paper. You get the lineup from the team yesterday, and you do get another Zardes start. I actually think you kind of got exactly what we were speculating about. Not that, again, to your point on the midweek episode, there's only so many choices for this team right now, even at quote unquote full strength here. So you got Zardes in as kind of the hot hand, if you will. It was Owen Wolff over Ethan Finley on the wings. You get Danny back in there in the midfield alongside Alex Andriusi, and then you do see Julio start next to Brendan Heinzike. Everything else was the same. And then you're walking into the stadium, right? And there is an airplane flying over the stadium with a message from the Wolff Out group, right? The segment of the fan base that I guess, again, right? We're not going to try to tell people how to fan, right? If you feel that strongly and you want to clearly put some financial backing into that message, hey, more power to you. I think from my point of view, just for me, right, my opinion as a fan is that it's a little bit of a distraction. And also, if you are a diehard fan like you and I are, right, we listen to the press media availabilities, whether it's Roto, whether it's coach, whether it's a player. And we know that the goal for this season, as the club has stated, right, whether it's Roto or coach, that it's a rebuilding season, right? And that the goal is to make the playoffs. So if we know that, right, we're sitting right on the edge of that playoff line coming into this match. And I also don't want to say that like over the long term, 9th place is not good enough. Right. Mm-hmm. But where we are in this salary cap league, and I just don't know where the disconnect is between how I view this and some folks that are on the completely other side of the extreme. Again, wanting to fly, wanting to chant during the match, which I think honestly I have a little bit more of an issue with than any sort of pregame stuff that you want to put out there, plain banner, march, what have you. But like, this is not, I think it is very appropriate when you're looking at a team that's rebuilding under a salary cap structure. It's very appropriate to compare MLS in that sense to some of our more American sports that do operate under a salary cap, your NFL, your NBA, right? A lot of those teams frequently don't turn things around from a bad roster situation from the financial side. It's very hard to turn things around immediately, right? Especially when we know that Roto on purpose left this roster a little bit more sparse to bring in the guys that are here now and showing up on the pitch, hopefully. in 6 days. If this was an English or a European league, rather, where there is no salary cap and our ownership could spend as much as they possibly, as much as their hearts desired to get us to the top of that table and winning year after year after year was feasible with that type of strategy, then yeah, I'd be right there with you. And again, this, I guess, is getting more into the roster build talk rather than like the coach. And look, you can point out, of course, the win percentage is good, right, over the 3.5 year sample, or a little bit more than we have. But we knew coming into the year, right, that Rodo and the ownership was going to give Josh a chance with this roster. Obviously, they went through a really hot period at the beginning of the season, right? And now have cooled off a little bit, right, kind of to the point, again, right on that playoff line. So I guess to me, it's just like, why now? Again, there's no I don't think there's any perfect time to protest almost anything, right? There's always going to be somebody who tries to push back. So I guess, again, I'm not trying to say that shouldn't have been done, the playing, right? I guess I just don't understand, again, why now? And I also have been thinking, I was thinking last night as we were walking away from Q2, what's the alternative, right? If you're somebody who doesn't like the idea of a plane or a banner or something like that, what's the alternative, right? Because you can't, the answer is not don't, if you feel that way, then go ahead. But yeah, man, for me, it feels like it's a distraction. It feels like a little bit self-centered, in my opinion, from those fans. Because our job as fans, right, you should be putting the pressure on and wanting more. But this is not the first time. It's been multiple years of this, right, where there's a very vocal segment of the fan base that wants this coach gone. And we know it's not coming right now, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I guess I just don't we're trying to, again, build a little winning streak. After beating NYCFC at home last week. We've got a double game week and the new guys are just about to be here. So I guess I just don't know. Why did it reach a fever pitch now? Out of all the low points, I guess I just don't get that. And then I guess to address the chants during the match, dude, that to me is just really fucked up. Because in between the whistles, man, we're there to support these guys. And that includes the coaching staff, because they're on our team, man. And we should want everybody that is involved, from the players to the coaches to the high performance staff, the GM, right? The front office. We should want, as fans, if we want this team to win, we should want them all to do well. And again, I understand if you perceive that the coach, right, for instance, is not up to par, which again, I think is fair. Yeah. I think that's a very fair assertion. Yeah. It's just again, coming back to why now. And again, I'm just personally never going to be on board with protesting players or coaches for on-field performance during the match. And that's where I was a little peeved last night, is when those chants come out during the match. But long-winded there. And again, we have a lot of extracurriculars to talk about, because that was far from my biggest issue with what went on at Q2 last night. Off the pitch. Yeah.
I mean, also not even just during the match, only when we go down 1-0 and we're missing a player.
And we just got red carded. That's when we start chanting.
Yeah. That is not the best timing for that. Look, I've said it in some comments before in YouTube on other social media forums or what have you. I don't think that people are necessarily wrong to want the coach to be changed. Coaches are ultimately judged on their record. Josh's record has been almost indefensible. You can look at some other things that go into this with context and everything. We had just started to see, we're a brand new team. We're in our inaugural year. Nobody's expecting us to be any good. Then you have last season, all the issues that came with that, the losses that piled up there. I understand all of those reasons for wanting to make the coaching shift. But when you have somebody like Rodolfo Borrell come in and just immediately give this team credibility and validity, and then have him support the coach, and then also outline what the goal was this season, because look, I don't know every coach in the world, but I don't know if there's many coaches that could take this team and make it a cup competing team. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like if the expectation is, hey, we got to be competing for cups every single season, there's just no way that you could find a coach who would be willing to come here with this roster and then propel this team to those heights. I don't care how good they are. Like it's near impossible to say that there's somebody who could out there who could do that. So for me, I'm here to support my team, support the players. That includes the coach as well. And I also will not tell people how to, spend their hard-earned money or not spend their hard-earned money for whatever reason. If you don't want to attend games, that's totally fine. That's your prerogative. But my fanhood doesn't just hinge on one individual person. Like it's not all or nothing for me. Like if Josh Wolff gets fired, which very well could happen, like you said, if they don't make the playoffs this year, and that was the goal, like we've set this up. It is in very clear terms, like make the playoffs this season. This is what we are looking for. I think Wolff does deserve a chance to see what it looks like with these new guys in here. Like he has gone through this as well. He has waded through these waters, these challenging and tough times to be able to get to this point where it's like, hey, coach, the roster was in disarray. I have to make it thin. We're going to have to get rid of some guys that people really like, some guys that people really don't like, yada, yada. You're in this with us. So I knew it was going to be a season of patience, not only from a result standpoint, but also from a standpoint of being able to get these players in here that we were going to need. And in regard to how a rebuild typically goes, this has gone much faster compared to those other sports that you have said, more American sports like that. Like it's a bit of a process, and we're starting to see the point where like things are actually starting to shift to the positive side. So again, I have also just no inclination, no desire to think that my opinion about the head coach or the coaching staff is more correct than what Rodolfo Borrell thinks. Like if Rodolfo Borrell thinks you're a pretty good coach or a coach that you're willing to kind of put your neck out there for, because I've seen people be like, Rodo's got to go too, because he's got Josh's back. Like I'm not going to question this guy. You know what I mean? Like he's the one who's actually getting paid to do to do this, make these types of decisions, support these guys and everything like that. So again, I have put all my faith, all my trust in him, right or wrong. I'm not saying that is the only way to approach this, but if he's on board with it, I'm on board with it. If he's on board with firing the guy, I'm on board with it. Yeah.
And I think I agree with that last part for sure. And I thought it was interesting that you and I were on different sides last night as we're walking out. And we got Tucker and Daniel caught up to us. Shout out to those guys. Had a lengthy conversation with them as well. I thought it was interesting that you and I disagreed on. You thought there was a chance that if we don't make the playoffs this year, that Josh would stay on through 2025. And I guess it's a non-zero chance. The way I interpreted Roto in the preseason was when he was like, we must make the playoffs. And he almost like pounded the table. To me, I think Josh Wolff would be fired if we do not make the playoffs. And I don't know. I would love to know if that line is you have to make the first round, or if they are satisfied, they being Roto and Anthony Precourt, are they satisfied with a wild card and out? Yeah. I'm personally not. I just think in a league where more than half of the teams make the playoffs, more than half of the teams in each conference, right? Just missing playoffs is unacceptable. Again, further context provided, right? If your roster is as fucked up as ours was last year, I can understand why they kept him around through the beginning part of this rebuild process, right? Because you go back to after that Colorado loss last year, late in the season, man, I think I'm pretty sure you and I came onto the podcast and we're like, he's got to be gone tomorrow, right? And that obviously that didn't transpire. So again, just I guess bringing it back around to the kind of Wolff Out protest, right? I think is an apt way to describe it. Hey man, you guys, keep doing your thing. I guess it's not for everybody. And that doesn't mean that somebody who doesn't agree with putting money into flying a plane or chanting against the coach during live play, that doesn't mean that the person loves the coach either.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I think is like, I've seen just in certain chats, especially in supporters groups, where there's it's very binary in a lot of those places. And it's just again, not that.
Again, my loyalty is not to Josh Wolff. If Josh Wolff
Right,
gets fired,
exactly.
I'm not going to try to follow him to a USL club or what have you. I'm going to be an Austin FC fan after that point in time. So, it's a tricky situation. I understand that people are frustrated and everything. Like, this is Austin's first professional sports team. I know that I'm a first-time season ticket holder of anything. Like, this is my first go at that. So I understand and can appreciate that there's a lot of people in that situation as well. And they're demanding some excellence. And I just think that the parallels between the teams that guys have been rooting for or girls or what have you, have been rooting for does not necessarily translate to this league. And that the expectation put forth by the front office, by ownership, was make playoffs this season and we'll go from there. So I do think Josh will get his fair shot. And like to your point where we kind of disagreed, I don't know how much louder it can get than this right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the playing, the chants and everything like that. And like, obviously if we fall short of missing the playoffs, I think the calls in the seat will be so hot for Josh to get out of there that it might just be too much to withstand. But I do think that he deserves a shot with a complete team. Like,
yeah.
I understand this is a little different. Like, I know like it, and especially nowadays in American sports and like culture like that, like, you don't perform within 2 years, like you're gone, like it's over,
You
so
see
I think
other teams in our conference, right?
Yes.
Like we're about to play Dallas. They canned Nico.
Yep. And I mean, I can somewhat appreciate that we're taking a bit more of an unorthodox long-term approach to look at this. So that's where I'm at with it. Am I completely satisfied with the results and the way that this team looks and the product that they put out there all the time? No, definitely not. But and now being in this space for me personally, where it's like I speak and like people are going to hear it, and like I'm not going to not be critical of players or guys or coaches or what have you, but I'm also still going to be supporting them in the long term and hoping for the best.
Yeah, of course. 100% with you there. And again, like I just think some of the expectations, if you expect this team or any MLS team to win a trophy every year, you're just not going to have a good time in the league, because it is a salary cap league, is designed to have at least some semblance of parity. And this league, more than any other league that I have ever been a fan of, exemplifies that. So, I said at the beginning, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I really appreciate that about MLS.
Yeah. Same.
That there's absolutely a ton of parity. I really like that.
Yeah. Again, it brings you results like, and I don't like this result last night, but it was not foreseen that FC Dallas with no Jesus Ferreira beats the Galaxy 2-0 and they sub out Pitar Musa halfway through.
Yeah.
The 5-1 Columbus on the road over LAFC, 3 red cards in that game. There's, love this league. But like I said, kind of at the beginning of this, and we've been going, this is going to be a long episode, my friends.
About to get hot in here.
I will, me personally, I'm not going to boycott the team over players or coaches on field performance, right? Off field stuff, I'm in, right? We know about our former number 10, all in on that. But what I will boycott over is some bullshit like this. Last night in the North End, we talk about the North End Pirates all the time. Those are our boys, and they are not just known, of course, in and around the North End. Brian and Mike are staples of, in my opinion, the hardcore, diehard fandom that surrounds this team.
Yeah.
Right? Those guys are, they are just the heart and soul of the North End, in my opinion, because without those guys, there would be not nearly as much chanting and singing along with La Murga, because when we're in the North End, that wall of sound is coming right at us. And Brian and Mike do their best, literally for the full 90 minutes, standing. The fucking accessories that these guys have on, the makeup, right? They got face paint on. These guys are all in every time. And in like the 20th minute last night, a Q2 security guard comes up and starts hassling them. And, at first, I think most of us in section 123 thought they were trying to tell him to sit down.
Yeah.
Right. And I will say, before we get it too much further into this, that I can totally understand somebody coming for their first match, or even if it's not your first match, you're not familiar with Section 123 and you maybe buy tickets right behind our brothers there. And that you're upset that, they're standing and you maybe can't see the game as best as you possibly could. So I get that. But this is what these guys have done from day one.
50
minutes every single match. And if those guys aren't there, it's because they're like in the South End helping to raise up a TIFO or something. So apparently the problem was not that they were standing, according to Q2 security. It was that they had megaphones. And again, these megaphones that Brian and Mike hold are plastic, little tiny cones that you would see maybe on a practice field for an 8-year-old soccer team. This is the type of megaphone that we're talking about here, right? It's not battery powered, electric, whatever. There's no magnification, but a piece of plastic cone that these guys are using to harass the opposing keeper, help lead chants in the North End when they can, right? We really only get the most simple chants down, I think, there. But when we do, it's because of Brian and Mike.
Yeah.
And so as these guys continue to get harassed by the security guard, and I wish I had went and got his name. I know there is video from Brittany Flowers that she posted, and that got a lot of attention on Twitter. I know that this guy is visible in one of her videos. So I would encourage people who are so inclined, maybe I can do so myself, following up with our ticket rep who I got to meet last night for the first time. I don't think this guy should be working at Q2 anymore, not just because of him harassing Brian and Mike, not just because he went after, and this is, maybe the most positive thing for me on the entire night, was how pleasantly surprised I was that what felt like the entirety of not just Section 123, but this chant, "Leave them alone," starts in Section 124 to our left, which again, I think highlights the importance of fans like Brian and Mike to the overall atmosphere at Q2. These guys, when you talk about growing the legend and the 100-Year War, again, these guys are fucking staples. So the security guard goes and gets not only a supervisor on the security team, but 5 Austin police officers. 5. And so, of course, there is when I say we, I'm not talking about you and me. We are included in this. When I say we, I'm talking about 3 whole sections of the North End, which, in my opinion, I don't know for sure, is majority season ticket holders.
Yeah.
So we are all your diehard fans down there, right? And so they continue to aggressively, verbally harass Brian and Mike. And shout out to B for being so level-headed. I don't think I could have been. And this goes on. Yeah, don't look at me like that. Come on. This goes on until about the 35th, 36th minute. So I missed 15 minutes of the game. I don't know about you, but I think a lot of other people in the North End would feel the same way because we're trying to deal with and defend this whole situation. And they end up, apparently, from what I heard from Brian after the match, apparently one of the officers, I don't know if we got his name or not, said that basically started forcing his way towards Brian to forcibly remove them from their seats, at which point I think they were just like, all right, man, we'll go with you. And so I think we kind of thought like, all right, well, these guys, our buddies, have been kicked out now. And I will tell you, if there's any, I don't assume that there is any team employees that ever listen to the North End podcast. But if you are, I'm just telling you, this was one of the worst experiences I ever had as a fan at Q2 Stadium. And they weren't even fucking with me.
Yeah.
But to go up at halftime and see, number one, that those guys were still there, still having to deal with police and security and team personnel. And the fact that these guys weren't just the complaint from the initial security guard. Oh, and I forgot this part. Fuck this guy. He comes back down, the initial security guard, when he brings the police down, he goes up to fans, including our boy Big Fudge, and starts antagonizing them, putting thumbs up in their faces and smiling and laughing. This guy, I don't want to see him at Q2 anymore. Any fucking more. It's bullshit to treat your not just any fan, but fans like this who have dedicated so much of their time and energy and money to this club to try to bring the mood, the vibes, the volume from the South End to the North End, right? And I'm not saying we want everybody to stand up and cheer for 90 minutes straight. That's not what I'm getting at there. But to have that type of vibe all around the stadium, that's what, in my opinion, the best fan bases have. And Austin FC is stymieing that with how they handled this last night. Ultimately, Brian and Mike let back into the section without their plastic little cones because that was so dangerous to any and everybody's fucking presence at the stadium last night. But, man, I feel bad a little bit for Eric, our ticket rep, because and Eric, if I came in a little hot last night, I apologize. And I saw him getting the business from a number of other fans. Again, very impressed with how everybody in the North End reacted to that happening. Dude, our chants were so loud at these security team members and the APD officers that were there. And I think the majority of those officers, from looking at their faces, they looked to me like they thought it was a little silly, that there's nothing going on here. And clearly the fact that the entire North End is telling them, yo, this is nothing. I don't know if they really even wanted to be involved there, but I don't know, man. That was just a shit situation. And I will say again, the absolute worst experience I've ever had at Q2. And you guys got to look, you guys got to make that right. Something has to be done here because saying that all of a sudden there's a rule against having little cone bullhorns in the North End, they do it every fucking game. Yeah. Why last night?
Yeah.
Why last night?
How'd they get them in then?
Yeah, every game.
If
so you guys illegal. Are making up bullshit. And to me, it starts with the security guard who clearly had bad intentions. You can't come back and fucking antagonize fans when you're working security. That's a clown show, man. And to side with somebody like that instead of, again, to me, some of the most important fans that you have is 100% bullshit. I don't know what you guys have to do, Austin FC, to make it right, but you guys fucked up, and there are a lot of people who feel the same way.
Yeah, there's a lot of very upset people at this situation. I mean, like everything you said about the Pirates, they're staples, yada, yada. They meet up with tifos. I mean, these guys are super respectable also when they're not being loud and chanting and doing all of this great stuff. And like you said, they've been there for 4 years. And like we had the first kind of weird interaction with them in the NYCFC game where a random security guard came down to check their tickets. And like, I was like, okay, well, that's weird. They were both pretty confused, but they were like, hey, like, do you really not know like who we are? You know what I mean? Like we've been here forever. And then to have this guy come down in this game, you know, I don't know why. You know what I mean? I don't assume that this is a rogue security guard who was just like, hey, these guys have these megaphones and they need to be, you know, they need to be handled. I don't think that he just made that decision on his own and was like, okay, I'm going to go do something about this. And initially I had a little bit of empathy for the guy because it's like, you know, you're there. I understand you're working, you're trying to make a living and everything. And you got 3 sections of people chanting, leave them alone, blah, blah, blah. And it's just getting more and more escalated to the point where it's like, no, this is not going to be good. Yeah. But then when he came back and he stuck his thumb up right in Big Fudge's face and was clapping at people and like smiling and laughing and everything, that's when it really turned and was like, okay, this is some sort of vendetta. This is a power trip thing. This is out of control. And it just was really handled terribly, you know, and part of this, you know, one of the messages that comes out from the front ownership or from front office group and everything like that and ownership is we have the best fans in the league. We want them to be passionate. We want them to be loud. We want them to be singing our songs. And those guys embody all of that times 100. Like Brian makes tifos, like he's in on that. They're in on all the clubs. They go Lamurga stuff. Like it's fantastic to have them there. They're a huge presence for us. So I was incredibly disappointed. I went up to check on them after they had been escorted up to the ticket rep area. And I was one of the people who got told, like, hey, if you're not involved in this situation, then you need to get out of here. And that was pretty aggressive towards me. But also I was like, what am I going to do here? And I do want to say that I don't know if, Brian put out a little statement message there, but the one security personnel woman that he was dealing with was out of control. She just the way that she was talking to Brian, and
I
Brian
believe her name was Emma.
Okay.
Just for reference, club.
I'm not gonna like, I don't know.
I am. No,
yeah,
that
okay.
you cannot treat, and I don't care if they're the Pirates or not. You can't treat fans like that. You can't.
That's fair. She was definitely making the situation worse. And I've known Brian for years. I worked with Brian.
Yeah.
So like I know him on a personal level and everything. He's very respectful. And I know that he was patient and calm in those situations, but also getting to the point where it's like, hey man, we've missed 25 minutes of this game now, and you have interrupted 3 sections of viewing for people who are now furious at this situation. And for it to come down to the fact that they got to turn over some dollar store megaphones that they have that are just made of cheap plastic that they were allowed in with. If you're the head of security and you're this upset about it, why didn't they take them?
It's your fucking fault then.
That's like, if you're going to try to wield this big axe like that, is like, this is my call. Like, you can't have this. This is illegal. It's hostile. Well, then you drop the ball initially, and you've dropped the ball for 4 years.
4 fucking years.
So, I'm glad those guys are okay. I'm glad that they got back to their seats and everything. Sans megaphones, which were returned to them after the match. But yeah, it was a terrible, terrible and ugly situation. And it could have gotten way worse because that one cop was pretty aggressive to try to get into their seats and everything like that. And that is the last thing that we need there. And, I think I'd said over to Brian, like, hey man, like, I'm worried about you, concerned. Mike's taking a walk, kind of cool off a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and carry on your what you would want us to do here after you've been removed, which is cheer for the team and everything. So went back, but glad that it did get rectified. But I'm with you there. Something needs to be done in regard to at least making it clear, like what is allowed and what's not allowed, and then we can have some sort of discussion after that. But yeah, no, they did not do right by the Pirates there.
I would go, and maybe this is overly dramatic. For me, they should refund those guys tickets for last night. So you made them miss almost half the fucking game over nothing. Fucking nothing.
Or you could get everyone in section 1, 2, 3 a beer.
All right, we'll take that too.
2 offers on the table.
2 solutions. On that note, let's
let's get into this game,
last night's game, huh?
Yeah, what are we, 30, 40 minutes in here?
Yeah, so we did get a little bit of rotation out of the Seattle side, right? You see Pedro in there and starting, as we speculated on the midweek episode. But Albert Rusnak, Jordan Morris on the bench for this team. You get some of those teenagers who are grown up now, right? Your Obed Vargas, Paul Rothrock. You get our boy Reed Baker Whiting in later. So a little bit of rotation here. Still feeling good once we kick off 7th minute here. And I thought from our vantage point in the north end, this was a beautiful build-up here. Very quick, playing out of the back. Stuver kind of pings it to Danny, right back to him, trying to create a little space. And then Stuver pops it over near midfield on that left side going towards the south end to Biru. Biru then pops it kind of over the top to Jossie, who's running in towards the left side of the penalty area, and he brings it down nicely. Reagan marking him, and he fires a shot that goes just over the bar. That thing was dipping, just not fast enough. But a good chance right off the rip, and like from the Stuver distribution there to Biru's nice ball to give Jossie a chance to bring it down, for him to control it as he did and almost put it on frame. It was encouraging, and unfortunately there wasn't just like a ton of that coming the rest of the match.
Yeah, I mean, like the first 15 minutes of the game, I was very encouraged. I was like, okay, and this was a play that is almost something that we forecasted before, where it was like, they're not going to be fully up in their high press. We're going to have some opportunity to get these balls out and get going and everything. And I think that they make an adjustment almost immediately after this, because then you start to see them way the fuck up the field, really trying to put a little bit of a press on us. So a great strike by G there would have been awesome if that went in, man. I was very encouraged. It was such a, obviously, with everything else going on, the plane, the situation with the Pirates and everything, it was a strange game. I would imagine it was very strange for them to play in. And I think it kind of gets revealed as this game goes on that we weren't completely focused on the task at hand.
Yeah. 12th minute, Joao Paulo, who, again, just fucking class for this league.
Everything.
Draws a foul 25-ish yards from net, kind of left center in front of Stuver there in the north end. And De La Vega lines up over it. I told you right as the foul happened, Pedro is shooting this. And here he goes, rips it. A shot that Stuver, it probably goes off the bar and out, but Stuver, just in case, taps it over the net. And then cleared out on that corner, so nothing doing. 16th minute here, Austin breaking some lines, and then on the break here, Alex Ring out to John Gallagher on the right, and Gally whips across it, and I will say it was a poor one because it didn't get over, I think, that second defender, trying to get to Jassy there, but I can't believe we're back here so fucking quickly. The ball goes the other way, and 19 of the 20 field players start sprinting the opposite direction. And our number 10, our captain, throws his hands up and is walking.
Not just walking.
The starts, fucking stands there.
Walking almost to the sideline.
I just don't get it. And go back and watch it for yourself if you did not see it live. But we saw it live, and I don't get it, man.
I also don't get it. I understand that he has some frustrations in regard to where he's getting the ball, how he's getting the ball delivered to him and everything. But this is
not getting, he doesn't get a ton of touches for a star player.
For sure. And I thought that this is just it like we had just moved past this. Like we had just got past this in the NYCFC game where his body language was great. His leadership qualities were fantastic. And, I was listening to Wolff's presser and everything like that. And obviously the one of the topics that keeps coming up is like, we need better players. You know what I mean? Like it just keeps coming up. And I would assume at some point in time, if you're a guy out there who's putting it out there for 90 minutes and really laying it out there, which Johnny G does all the time, that it is a bit frustrating to hear those things like we need better guys to come in and be better players and give better service to our best player, 10 here. But if you're 10, man, when you do that to somebody and you kind of show them up and you kind of embarrass them a little bit, it's hard to pull that person back in, despite how much of a great professional they might be, which Johnny is. He's a fantastic professional. It's still hard. There's still the human component of it, the interaction. These guys are not robots. And, if you want to get frustrated and do something like that, okay, I think it's a little early, but then get your ass back on defense.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Don't compound it. Like it was a mistake. It was a horrible ball by John, which is something we have talked about. It's been a hot topic coming up the last couple episodes here where like his balls have been really terrible, but then don't make it worse, man. And be the last person who's interested in what happens next in this play, in which he 100% was.
And again, man, like you said, the sporting game where we were last bitching about Seba and his body language and all that. Like, how are you as the captain, a guy like Alex or Julio is kind of your vice captains there, right? Unofficially, the coaching staff, whether it's Josh or Davey or Preston or whoever the coach, right? How are they supposed to hold anybody accountable?
Yeah.
If you're acting like that, and if we don't again, that's right. I don't think it doesn't feel like there's been accountability for Seba behind the scenes in the locker room, in the film room, because he keeps fucking doing it.
It's a precarious situation, man, because obviously he's our best player. Obviously everything goes through him, and you do have to hold this guy to the same standard that you do with the other players, but there's always leeway with talent. But
fucking best player does not equal best leader. And I just think again, this is not a new topic, but I don't know, man. I don't want to see this again the rest of the season. Or else, then I feel like I'm gonna lead my own fucking campaign hashtag that's like, take the armband away.
Yeah.
I want him on my team, but I need a leader with the armband, and you have to exemplify that even when it gets hard.
Yeah. And I mean, we're not even asking for be an all-time great leader. Just we can't have these fucking moments. You cannot have these plays where
16th minute.
you fall down to the ground and you're sitting there and we still got the ball, or you're throwing your hands up and you're disgusted. You look at somebody just with a disgusted look, and then you don't get back on defense. And, I'm not going to hold 10 accountable for everyone else's actions throughout the course of the game. But as this game goes on, you see the effort levels from Danny, you see the effort levels from Alex, and they're shit.
Yeah.
Like, poor. And again, it comes back to, he now has taken away his own voice to be like, hey man, you need to, step up. Come on, wake up, focus here. He's taken that ability away from him by doing this type of shit. And this is just, it's inexcusable, man. It's petty.
Yep. 25th minute. I just noted you can actually hear the North End chants of leave them alone over everything on the broadcast, which again, club, take note. When there's people in the fucking South End by La Murga messaging us saying what's going on down there, you guys fucked up.
Yeah, no, it was bad.
33rd minute, Ring plays Obi through down to the right side of the box here. Obi puts in a cross right on the end line, cross on the ground, kind of back towards the top of the box, which is just about the only spot in the 18 that doesn't have an Austin player occupying it, which was unfortunate. But Seattle gets on the ball here, and then Obed Vargas plays Paul Rothrock, who speeds ahead, and he catches Brendan Heinzike in no man's land. Indecisive here, which creates a 3-on-2 break. De La Vega on the left, wide ass open, and we get very, very lucky that Danny Musovsky takes a heavy touch. Julio makes a great slide to stop the break and prevent that chance, because that was a sure goal. And it's not Brendan's finest night last night.
I was literally going to say, we have sung Brendan's praises all season long. This was the first real stinker clunker that he put out, and it was a performance that was actually detrimental to the team. I want to go back to the start of the game. And you didn't have a note on this. I thought maybe you might. But you get that initial cross, and it's Obrian versus Yamar or Nuhu in the air. It was one of the first plays of the game, like one of the first possessions for us. And like the cross comes in, and like Obi makes an attempt, but obviously he's half the size of this back line. And like, I know it's easy to sit here and play coach while I'm sitting in my armchair after everything is settled, the dust is settled, the results are in and everything. But like, this was not a team we were going to beat in the air. And I don't know if I mentioned it on the pod or if I wrote it in the article leading up to this match, but I said this is a huge, massive back line that is very athletic with Yamar, Nuhu, and Seattle Shrek, Jackson Reagan, who dwarfed Giassi last night.
Huge.
Like, yes, it was.
I do not remember that fuck being that big.
No, he is huge. And I saw this first play. I'm doing the rewatch and everything like that. And I was just like, man. And then you see the type of impact that CJ has later on, where we're actually getting some balls in the air. And I thought to myself, I wondered if something came up in training throughout the week where it's like, again, because I've also been asking for shots at the top of the box from 10, and you see this 15th minute play here with Johnny where he doesn't get him the ball. I was wondering if that was part of the game plan, and it doesn't look like it was. I don't know if we didn't execute it or if it never even popped up, but it just was going to be almost impossible to beat that back four in the air. So I would have liked some sort of adjustment there. Yeah.
I mean, you see later on, like we'll talk about it, right? But Diego comes on. He's trying everything because he ain't getting to a ball, but he's trying to jump up and draw a foul and get tangled up. Anyways, here, 34th minute, Yamar elbows Biru in the face down on the left side of the box on that next possession. Draws the yellow card, and I think watching the replay, which I didn't see till this morning on this particular play, I think he sold it a little bit. There's definitely contact, and so I think a fair yellow card there, but it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't as drastic as it looked live. And then I thought it was also notable that
it was up there.
Yeah, it was a high elbow, forearm.
Yeah, man, put a little Brazil on that.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was notable that Sebo was taking free kicks in the offensive third last night, which I like. I don't want him to be on corners really. Because again, I do think he's one of the few aerial presences that we have, even though he's not a towering guy. On this free kick, he tries to shoot it from a tough angle. And again, I've seen worse shots, but it goes out for a goal kick.
Respectable attempt.
Yeah, for sure.
Very tough angle. But then also another thing that confuses me, right? Like we've seen the short corner so many times. This was the team to do the short corner against.
Yeah, for sure.
This was the team to go short on.
I mean, I think there was a short corner in the second half, and I don't know if it's in the notes here coming up. I think it is, because I think Galley whips in a good ball that we get a decent chance off of, maybe off the second ball. But then we see, we'll talk about them, but those short corners, or not short corners, but the one where we're targeting the near post, but on the ground.
Yeah.
Again, they did not work. And again, sometimes when we're trying the Jason Grubb sets here, I think when they don't work, it looks bad.
Yeah.
So I understand the thinking there. We'll talk about it. 40th minute here. Austin, long passage of possession and a great long ball here from Seba to Obrian from the left side near midfield all the way to the right side of the offensive third. And Obrian with a very good touch out of the air just directs it right to Alex Ring. And then Alex one-times him through on the give and go, and Obi catches up to it on the end line. This cross from Obrian goes right across the face of goal and just inches from Zardes, who was charging to that near post. But it goes all the way through. Owen corrals it. He drops it off to Driussi. And Driussi pops it over the top towards that right post, where Gallagher heads it back across towards the left post. It's a little high. Nobody's able to get it. But, man, again, hindsight's 20/20. But I thought live that John could have brought this down. He had a lot of space to maybe put it on frame himself. Yep. And, again, playing the Monday morning quarterback here, for lack of a better term, easy to say he should have shot it now. But just, again, one of those chances where our finishing is not polished enough to even get, a threatening ball on frame. And I think you see not just the quality of finishing on the other side with Seattle in this game, but the quality of their movement in the final third too was making me a little jealous, not just watching the game, but on the replay this morning.
Yeah, I mean, they generated themselves some wide open looks, and everything we had was pretty contested. Dude, it keeps popping up in the pressers. Every time we got to be better in the third, the final third here. We got to be better when it's the last moment before we can score a goal or make a decision to try to either find somebody in the area who has arrived, or if we're going to put something on frame. And it just seems at this point that we're just so far in our own heads about when it is an appropriate time to shoot, when it is the appropriate time to be a little selfish, or when do we want to have the appropriate time to whip a ball into the box here. And I thought Johnny had time, and he could have done better with it. And again, the margins are razor thin for this team, and we are not generating a lot of chances. I don't expect that to change until hopefully the 20th. I don't know how drastic that change might be, but you would have to assume it's some sort of bump given how pedestrian it is all of this for the entirety of this season. And then you just add in that type of quality in class, you would expect to see some sort of a bump. But again, we have so few chances that you just have to be spectacular with them at times. And we just keep seeing very ordinary, efforts at finishing the ball. But again, overall in the first half, like I said, we walked out of there. Everyone's pretty high. Everyone's pretty high on emotions, everything. I thought the first half we were fine. This is a very good team. Seattle's a really good fucking team. And I thought we were fine. We were controlling the ball how we wanted to. But again, it just came down to, I don't think it was the right approach to be trying to beat this team in the air. I just don't.
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't necessarily disagree with you. 44th minute here, just before half, you get Paul Rothrock, heavy challenge on Alex Ring in the north end there, just coming in from behind, going right through his back, and Brad Stuver, rightfully so, gets up in his grill, tells him to fuck right off.
If you make Brad mad,
I thought that should have been a yellow.
I also thought that should have been a yellow.
Second minute of stoppage here, Alex Ring whips in a cross that goes off of Nuhu's head, right to the feet of Driussi, about 15 yards out, and he straight up whiffs.
Yeah.
I mean, this is strike one.
Yeah.
He might as well have spun around. He missed that so bad.
Might as well throw your hands up and not get back on defense because you made a mistake. And again, I understand he's going to make mistakes. He needs to understand that other people are going to make mistakes as well, and we cannot compound these things with the bullshit. I love you, 10. You're my boy.
Yeah.
You're my boy,
bro. Look at your hair.
Yeah, dude.
Which, by the way, he went away from the bleach.
Yeah, I know. He fucking abandoned me. Damn, dude. You know, I love the guy. I respect everything he does out there in regard to his talent, but this type of stuff, he's 29 at like, this is
28,
28.
29, I think. Yeah.
Like this is teenage stuff, man. Like, it's petty. It's petty.
Yeah. Well, so he misses that ball.
Yeah.
It does fall. It continues kind of through to Owen Wolff, and he has a ton of space, but man, he just like has to take at least a half beat too long to set up for his shot here. And so you get Roldan and Yamar in position to get in front of this shot, and Yamar ends up blocking it out, and the halftime whistle blows. But fucking Owen, I think, can do better there too. Because we've seen it out of him before. I just think you got to be quicker on the reaction time there, man.
We're just looking again for someone to take that step, take that initiative to be like, hey, man, I'm the person who's going to go net us a goal. And we're looking to 10, and he's got his hands up in the air sometimes. And we're having guys like Johnny and Owen, and the list goes on for dudes who are just unable to be in that moment and provide us with the goal scoring, prowess that we need.
So coming out of the half here, you get a double change for Seattle, and Rusnak and Morris for Musovski and De La Vega. So De La Vega going off, we'll take that. But two of their four best players coming onto the pitch here, with one going off. And it, to me, man, especially on the rewatch, like this is where the game shifts, because Rusnak and Morris they were the two best players on the field last night.
Agreed. Yeah, this is definitely where the game shifts. And again, the roster's a bit filled out now. And I would have liked to have seen a sub at half. I would have liked to have seen some sort of adjustment.
Who would you put in there?
I mean, honestly, based on performance and what those guys were doing in the first half, I would have been looking at Pepe and Alex and shifting Owen back and then bringing in potentially Finley on the wing, or not CJ that early. But again, like I talked about, getting some sort of size in that position to be able to be threatening there. But, they make the subs. Obviously, the subs they're bringing off the bench are of higher quality than what we can bring off. But I thought, like you said, that this was an adjustment that really changed the course of the game. And I'm not sure that there was an apt response to it.
I actually think, like you mentioned, Danny, and I would agree with you that he did not have his best night. I think far from it. But I thought he really started to die physically. It seemed to me here in the second half.
I'm flabbergasted at what he does in the second half here.
He hasn't played live minutes for over a month. But again, that's no excuse. That's no excuse.
He was in training, and they're running those guys, he's getting the reps there and everything. Like he's absolutely in game shape.
In the 49th minute, Austin, I thought, works the ball well here from left to right. Good long ball from Heinzike to Obrian out on the right near the edge of the box. He brings it down nicely, drops it for Galley, and then Gallagher's crossed towards the near post, finds a cutting Driussi in the north end. He puts a header inside the near post, but saved by... And look, man, I know I say it a lot, and this is not the last time I'm going to say sometimes you have to credit the offense, or the defense, rather, in this instance. We were all standing in the north end. Again, we get that little bit of momentum there, the good header on frame by Seba, and we win a corner. I got to tell you, man, I was directing half of my applause at Stefan Fry, because that was a really good save.
Yeah, it was giving me flashbacks to when we actually scored on him, and he somehow still saved it.
Right, same spot.
He had a huge second half. I thought Coach said it well in his presser after that. This game was available for both teams to take, and Jordan Morris makes a play later on in the second half where he took it to us, and that was the end of result in the game there.
58th minute, you get a yellow card to Brendan Heinzike for a late tackle on Jordan Morris near midfield, and this was on a fast break that Brendan himself turned over as Leo Chu was able to step in and head it down. So again, it's like my problem is not the yellow card in this instance. It's the turnover, because I appreciate the tactical foul and keeping, Julio from being 2-on-1 there. But again, it just wasn't Brendan's best night, and it gets worse for him.
Oh, it gets worse. This was really the start of the unraveling here. We gave Leo shit for his terrible turnover. This is an absolutely awful turnover ends up being a game-changing turnover because he picks up the first one here and it eventually completely impacts the game. And I know that he's, obviously trying to be a bit more cautious when he's on that caution. And yeah, dude, it's just something that has plagued this team for a long time. And it looks way worse when in the attacking third, you are unable to put stuff in behind the keeper and it just gets highlighted. So, dust yourself off, BHI. You've been fantastic all season. This was a rough game for you. We're not going to see you versus Dallas, but
we'll see you on Saturday.
You're still in the fold, brother.
61st minute. Another bad turnover here this time by Danny. Sends Seattle off on a 4-on-3 break, and Albert Rusnak, the maestro here on this transition opportunity, finds a wide open Leo Chu. And Brad's best moment of the night, in my opinion, coming out here, making himself bigger, makes a huge save on what even the announcers deemed should surely be a goal. So shout out to Brad for that.
I mean, this is why we love the guy. This is why we're constantly telling people who aren't affiliated with Austin FC that he is just absolutely massive to our team because he comes up big in these moments more often than not, keeps us in this game here. Hell of a save. But yes, you start to see, like I talked about before, where they were getting clean looks to uncork some shots here, and we were struggling on the opposite side of the ball.
And 2 minutes later, 63rd, Seattle in possession, working it around the back, and then make some headway down the left with Obed Vargas, who, again, right here, absolutely cooks Danny. And Danny looks dead when he gets left in the dust here. Just can't. He's got nothing left in the tank. Is what it looks like, man.
You didn't think it was effort thing, or you thought he was exhausted to the point where he couldn't catch up to a guy?
Maybe I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
To me, I mean, we can play body language doctor and everything like that, but I thought it was just an effort thing, and he passes him off to Alex like, you deal with it, and then Alex makes this
Vargas
horrible.
Freezes ring. Vargas got him with a little move there, a little hezzy inside.
Yeah, but I mean, brother,
I'm not saying it's okay.
On his right. You have that space controlled already. You don't need to be concerned about it. Yeah, obviously in the moment, it would, if he was bearing down on me, he probably would have shattered my ACL.
Right.
So yes, I understand.
So then he freezes Alex Ring, plays Rothrock into the penalty area, and he gets cut off. And also there's a Julio slide there as well near the top of the box that I saw some fans saying, why are you sliding there? I don't necessarily disagree with that take either. But then once Rothrock gets cut off, he passes it to Jordan Morris, and Morris kind of takes a stabilizing touch, then one to his left and slots it past Stuver. And again, that's the type of finishing quality that we have players, in my opinion, on this team that can do that. And we have at least one player who we should expect to do that, and he hasn't been. So credit to Morris here, slotting it in past Brad there in the corner of the net. And again, this was a high quality chance. X goal on target, 0.86 here, put it into the bottom corner of the net. So 1-0. And again, still about a half hour left, but obviously demoralizing.
Yeah, felt stinky for sure. Felt dead. We've been trying to tip our cap to offensive guys when they make a good play, or Stephen Fry when he makes a great defensive play here. But this was a fucking disaster class of defense, in my opinion, by the Verde and Black. Starts with Danny. Again, I am not going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he was too tired, because was he just tired from 60 minutes of gameplay, 65 minutes of gameplay where he wasn't even at a half too. He wasn't even super involved. Like, we didn't see him make any sort of huge line breaking runs where he's changing the tilt of the field. Inexcusable by him. Alex, again, I gave my stance on the fact that he didn't really necessarily need to react to that move. Much easier said than done. I don't know what Julio's doing here. This looked like when you're playing FIFA and you're just like, oh God, you just got to try something here. And he hits B and he slides. Then Johnny gets sucked in towards the ball. Biru's there. We've got two guys occupying this very small space, but still no one's really definitively on the ball.
Yeah.
Give him a touch inside the box, which is a cardinal sin for this team. We do not want touches inside the box. He makes a great left-footed strike, beats Brad. But, this was a fucking disastrous 30 seconds, 20 seconds of defense. One of the worst ones we've seen all season. I don't know what Danny was doing, man. I was so excited for him to get back. And
I know. I told you last night. Now he owes you 2.
I might not ask him. I might not ask him for anything else, man, because God, it was like that. It was again just strange.
Yeah,
strange.
Yeah, it's just unlike him.
Even that, like, again, this team, the mentality, if the goal is to make playoffs, every single game is a do or die game for this team. That is what it is. If you understand the circumstances, we are out here defending the fact that we understand the circumstances, but do y'all? Like, do you get it?
Yeah.
Because we can't have this shit continuously happen where we're dropping games in tight games where it's neck and neck for most of the game. And I don't think that as the second half progresses on, Rusnak gets in, Jordan Morris gets in, their quality starts to show up a bit more. But again, man, effort stuff, things like that, like, it's controllable. And I was incredibly disappointed with the entire midfield last night.
66th minute here, you get Reed Baker Whiting in for Leo Chu, and I believe Reed Baker Whiting
continues the record.
I think he's 3-0-0 at Q2 now, and still 0-0-1 at Parma Field. So 69th minute here, Driussi gets the ball on the near sideline to that broadcast camera, and this is more just a frustration on my part, especially live. No numbers. He's got Zardes in the middle, but Seattle is all the way back. They are set with their defense there, and he tries to Rabona a pass to Zardes in the middle instead of just holding on to possession, and it's deflected away for an easy turnover. Now Seattle's back in possession. I just don't. I yelled why at the time, and I still feel that way again. Like, and maybe it's just like, look, man, we all love the Rabona pass to assist or Rabona shot, like when it works.
He's incredible at it, yeah.
But it's also just like, especially with what we just saw in the first half. And now we're down, and now you're doing that. And I don't know, man. I didn't like it.
I also did not like it. I also just continue to be quite confused because obviously there's not even sort of numbers advantageous situation there where we're like, this is a spot where you can try to pull this off because we're going to get a breakaway and go. Right. It's like, nah, bro, they're set.
Yeah. 71st minute, Hindsight gets some space, fires a shot from outside of the box that gets deflected, goes out for a corner. And this is the first of 2 corners we see played short on the ground towards that near post. And again, it looked like to me from our vantage point there in the north end, right? Very similar to those near post corners that we've seen played in the air, but trying to get a deflection off that, the corner played in on the ground, deflected up into the air and try to cause some havoc there, but sniffed out by Joao Paulo. And again, like I said earlier, when those kinds of sets where you've got a little bit of trickeration in there, when they don't work, it looks bad.
Yeah. It's like a bad flea flicker or something.
Yeah. When you pull out the trick play and it gets busted. Yeah. 72nd minute here, double change for Austin Rubio and Johann Sebastian Baklava, the Punisher, in for Giassi Zardes and Alex Ring. And I think I wouldn't have minded seeing Diego Rubio a few minutes earlier, and I think the Alex Ring substitution, like I know that you and I not 100% satisfied with his performance last night, but I also think this Alex Ring substitution is like, hey man, we got a big game on Wednesday, and we're gonna let Johan play out this last 20.
I was confused with the substitution pattern. You don't get BHI out here too, like why?
Yeah, I mean, but also like bringing in a center back down. I mean, I get it. It's also hindsight. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe it's because CJ looked really good in his short amount of time, but like we had seen that, like you get 60 minutes of Obrian, that's what you get out of him, and then you sub him off, and it's like I don't understand why it went away, particularly if we're saying we're subbing other dudes out because we got a big game coming up Wednesday. Like, sure, Obi's biggest advantage is his speed. And if he's kind of Warren Tor, like it's not as advantageous. So I thought Rubio should have came earlier too. But again, if we were trying to play those balls into the box in the air, I understand why it needs to be G. But I think that there needed to be some sort of adjustment from a strategy standpoint.
I don't know if Warren Tor is grammatically correct, but I'll allow it.
Well, I don't care.
77th minute here. Seattle working possession once again at the back, and Stephen Fry, it goes all the way back to Fry, and he just kind of boots it like fairly aimlessly here towards midfield. Heinzike heads it backwards. Paul Rothrock runs under it, and he touches it onto Jordan Morris, who had sprinted around Heinz Ike after the header. And Brendan's in pursuit, and he kind of tugs on Morris a little bit, and then like they get tangled up from behind. On the replay, this didn't look as bad to me as it did in real time, but I get that you are denying a chance by those guys getting tangled up and going down. I don't really have a problem with the yellow, even after watching it on replay. And that's your second man that he gets sent off. And I also, again, I think it's telling, no matter what we think about it on the replay, Brendan walked straight off, man. He did not argue a lick. It's tough, man. Now, again, like we said, you don't see him on Wednesday. So and we might get a Matt Hedges Frisco fuck you.
it is definitely on the table now. It's available. Yeah, they get tangled up a little bit here on the rewatch. I'm looking at it, and I was just like, man, you got to release. You got to release that contact after you initially impeded him and slowed him down to the point where like you could potentially recover. I forget who also is kind of in the general vicinity there. But yeah, if you're on a yellow, you're just putting your life in the hands of the ref and his discretion.
That free kick right outside the box, Rusnak takes it and it goes off the underside of the bar and out, so just inches away from being 2-0. So obviously down a man now. You've got Leo in for Owen Wolff in the 82nd minute, and I think at first, for me at least, that was a head scratcher. It's like we're bringing in a center back, but also then like taking a look at what we were doing on the back line. We had moved Wolff back to left back and Biru to center back for the moment. And so I get why the change was made, especially considering we were about to be possessing the ball for the majority of the rest of this match, even down a man, because Seattle up a man, very content to sit back and counter when they get their chances.
Yeah. With all the things in play, all the circumstance, I understand the substitution. You got to have 4 guys back there, to stabilize it all and everything. It's just unfortunate. You don't account for a dude getting a red, man. You know what I mean? That's not part of the game plan beforehand where you're like, we're going to have to take this into account. So,
86th minute, you get a change for Austin, CJ Fodre in for Hadar Obrian, and then Tevis comes in for Rothrock on the Seattle side. But those substitutions are sandwiched by the 2 audible Wolff Out chants coming from the south end. And again, just one more time, this, in my opinion, this just like embodies the loser mentality. You're just whining now that we're down 1-0. Now we're down a man. Everything's going wrong. And we're looking for some sort of outlet to vent our frustration. And so again, then in the 88th minute, I just think it's notable because when this chant comes, Austin has won a corner. So the north end, again, not trying to fucking the Civil War, the fucking Q2 stadium here, but like the north end is getting on their feet cheering the team on. Meanwhile, the south end at this point, again, I know it's not 3,000 people that are on that wall of sound down there, but the ones who were, again, man, there's people on the other end cheering the team on, and you're bitching about the coach while the game's still going on. It's not a good look, in my opinion.
I don't think it's a great look either.
90th minute here, CJ on corners now, whips a ball in. This is not a corner, but whips a ball in towards Diego Rubio, and Rubio goes flying. And man, he sold me on that. I don't know about you. I thought it would have been a pen, but then you see the replay and definitely a flop. But then on that corner, CJ whips that one in, and it looks like Joao Paulo almost puts it in his own net. It goes out on the other side for another corner. Now Driussi takes this one, and he finds the head of CJ, and he redirects it towards the back post. This is on frame, and again, credit to Stefan Frei. For me, Stefan Frei was the man of the match because he saved 2 sure goals. And oh my God, did I want CJ to get that fucking equalizer, man. For his first goal, it would have been poetic.
Yeah, it definitely poetic is nice. Yeah, man, hell of a save. Great attempt. Proud of the fact that these boys were still fighting until the end and trying to get a point here. Obviously, we saw the lulls in effort, excuse me, throughout the course of this game. But I thought this rally kind of fury here in the last 10 minutes really sandwiched because what I thought was a good start and a very strong finish in regard to what we were generating. Obviously, at this point, Seattle's very pushed back. They're pinned down. They're just trying to get out of here. Yeah, there's context. So, like, it's just, again, the middle part. Things going wrong inside the sandwich. Got the bread
the meat
right.
of the sandwich.
Yeah,
Disgusting.
the bread is right.
Second minute of stoppage. Ethan Finley crosses the ball in, finds the head of Leo Väisänen at the near post, but he can't get quite enough on it. Stefan Fry settles under it to waste some time. Leva comes in for Joao Paulo to waste some more time in the third minute of stoppage. Ultimately, the final gasp from Austin is Danny dribbling straight out of bounds, and the final whistle blows. I will say one thing about CJ, maybe two things. The service, both from live play and on the corners, I thought was very encouraging. I don't know if, again, he was finding targets. So again, I don't know if there's luck. I don't think we've seen enough of CJ for me to know that is something that we'll get consistently at the MLS level, but very encouraging. The redirect from the header, fucking awesome. He brought energy and life to the game, and down a man gave us a chance to equalize late on. I personally thought that some of his work with the ball at his feet looked a little bit like that guy that doesn't have a ton of first team experience, but all in all, I thought it was a pretty good outing for number 19.
I was incredibly proud of him. He brought an energy when everyone was down. He brought it when we had our best player sulking.
He's trying to pump up the crowd too.
Yeah, he was in it, baby. He was there to get us a draw, and I totally salute him for that. And that was a great attempt on the header. Again, I would have liked to see him a bit earlier.
Sure.
If that was how we're taking some corners like that, get him in then.
Yeah. You might see him, or you probably will see him earlier in one of these two games coming the rest of this week, right?
Well, maybe not the 20th.
Yeah. Well, you would hope. We'll see. A lot can happen between now and then. 57% possession for Austin, 13 shots to 9 in favor of Austin, but then 6 on target for Seattle to 4 for Austin FC. One big chance created by Austin, of course. That one was missed. I imagine that was the Seba header. Could have been CJ's header, though. One of the two. 7 corners to 3 in favor of Austin. XG on FOTMob's model, 0.64 for Austin to 0.78 for Seattle. So again, when Coach goes on to describe that this game was very thin on the margins and neither team generated a ton, statistically correct. And I think that holds true with the eye test. But then I think, again, expected goals on target, that XGOT-E continuing to be my favorite stat, because 0.79 for Austin, that feels about right. I think, one goal would have been fair. And then 1.85 for Seattle. I think that feels fair too, with the number of close calls that they had, even on the limited number of shots. And the last stat here, it has now been 630 minutes of play for Driussi since his last open play goal in the 46th minute against Sporting there in the North End, a number of games back. It's just, and he does have an assist in that time. Yep. But we need goals out of number 10, man. And, hopefully he can turn it around here, headed into the Leagues Cup break. He's going to have an opportunity to make good on a mistake he made at Dallas the last time we were there here on Wednesday, try to get that one back. And then again, hopefully some of these new additions, like with him and Bukhari up there, maybe Osman, who had a large number of assists with Red Star, maybe we're getting some good service from Osman to Seba, and that helps open him up a little bit more, like we saw with Fagu and Seba in 2022, right? I don't know if we can, I doubt we can generate that type of magical connection that the ball on a string that Diego had that year, right? Especially when working with Seba. But I can hope.
Yeah, no, look, man, I'm not going to put it all on Seba either. The coaching staff needs to find more creative ways to get him the ball in dangerous spots, period. He needs to be better about his attitude, his body language, and his willingness to, get over stuff. But they have to find ways to get him the ball. He's clearly very frustrated with the ways that they're trying to get him the ball. I feel bad for him when he has to drop back almost into a defensive mid position in order to just get touches. They have to find ways to get him the ball in more dangerous spots, period. I don't care how we do it. I don't care what it looks like, but it has to happen.
Some of the post-game quotes here. Some talk about the officiating, which I thought was interesting because I know anytime there's a red card, there's going to be questions about that. Brad Stuver was not happy, according to Phil West in his Verde All Day Substack. And then, of course, Coach Wolff dodging the fines by not going in on the officials when asked. But he did address, kind of like what you said on the play where they concede the goal. He said the goal is obviously poor defending. I mean, we could have dealt with that much, much better. There's a number of guys that could have dealt with that. And, that's the difficult part. We have people there. It's an individual dribbling who gets by three guys. We can deal with that much, much better. And again, I agree. It's just sometimes it's on the players to go out there and make the fucking plays because they are the players. And they just didn't in that instance and got punished for it.
It was an absolutely terrible display of defense.
And I also thought, again, we can get on Josh for some of his robotic type responses in some of these instances, some of these press conferences. But when faced with the inevitable questions of the chants and the plane flying around the stadium, he kind of responded in a similar fashion as he has all season. He says, our fans are awesome. They're some of the best fans in the league. I think we've said that every week. They continue to support us. They push the guys every week, and we're all very, very appreciative of that. And I think we got to focus on doing our part. They certainly do their part, so we've got to keep pushing forward. It's a challenging season. We knew that from the beginning. We're in a spot where we can achieve our goal from what the start of the year is, and everyone in this organization understood and understands how challenging that is. And we're hopeful, obviously, as we add these guys, that will give us a bit of a push and quality that's much needed, and we'll end up making the playoffs. So a little bit of, I guess, kind of kill him with kindness there, I guess. Again, I'm glad he did not take any sort of bait on that, because I just want him, going back to the beginning of this episode, I just want him and everybody else in that fucking building focused on that goal of making the playoffs. I want a playoff game at Q2, and you're guaranteed one of those if you make the first round. And again, that's my bar for this team this season. And that bar, no matter what, for me, is going to be higher next year, but it is what it is. And like Coach said, that goal was stated in February, and that goal has not changed. And I am in tune to that.
Yeah, that's the goal that I am holding this team to. I don't have any delusions of grandeur that we're going to make a deep run into the Western Conference and face LAFC and churn out some miracle win versus them. But that's the goal that they've stated. That's the goal that I'm going to be holding them to. Again, I think it was an apt answer because this is a distraction that is just completely out of his control. There's nothing that he can do, say, other outside of, even if he won a MLS Cup with this roster, I don't think there'd be too many fans of that contingency that are super happy for him. So, it's just something he can't control. It's part of the job, man. Like, there's going to be people who are always screaming for your head, who always want you gone, and you got to handle it better. And I thought he handled it a bit better here.
Well, we can just move on, I guess, to Wednesday, because that is the beauty of a double game week, whether it was unfortunate happenings on the field, off the field. We got another chance at 3 points here coming up on Wednesday on the road. And again, you may not like the Copa Tejas. You may think it's silly and doesn't mean anything, but I'd rather have the Copa Tejas than not, because that silence you hear from like Houston and Dallas fans, that's only because we have the Copa Tejas. So I want those idiots to keep, their pie hole shut here, and we can do that with a victory or a draw on Wednesday, so you can see the match preview at thenorthendpodcast.com. Copa Tejas sitting there with the Verde and black streamers there on the cup. Want it to stay that way. Of course, a lot of meetings between. Oh well, yeah, of course. Of course. Yes. And again, I don't really understand the idea that it's not. Again, I don't think the Copa Tejas is something that any of us should be holding, like maybe going to Josh Wolff, like in Wolff Out, right? Like, I don't think it's a point for the coaching staff that you win Copa Tejas. No. But I feel like every Austin fan should be gung-ho about it, because these are our rivals, and fuck these guys.
Yeah, it's fun. It just gives these games a little more pep. And that's awesome.
Yeah. All-time record, 3 wins, 6 losses, and 2 draws against FC Dallas. And this season, this is the 3rd meeting already. Austin FC took the first meeting back in March, comeback fashion there at Q2, 2-1 scoreline. And then FC Dallas took the rematch up in Frisco in May. Also a 2-1 result, but you remember, right? The Driussi giveaway at the back to start. Then we have the mishap at midfield that makes it 2-0. We get the late PK. Owen Wolff draws it. Driussi buries it, and then can't quite get that equalizer at the end. But based on the Copa Tejas standings, again, to this point of the season, this match is a winner-take-all scenario for this fan-run competition. A victory for either side will clinch the cup, and a draw signifies an Austin FC three-peat. But we're going there to win, and a win at Toyota Stadium would be Austin FC's first in club history. So I don't know about you, but I'm excited to be there for history.
I am also excited to be there for history. I remember going last year and having my heart ripped out and stomped on and then blended and then put back into my chest cavity and trying to live my life after that. But yeah, no, you fucking better come to play 10.
Man.
Bro, you better come to play, or I will say mean things on the next episode.
Really laying down the gauntlet.
Yeah, that's right, brother. I got it. Look, man, I need a big game out of him. I need a big game out of Pep again. You know, his track record up there has also not been one that's been great, particularly with him getting that red in that game where I got my heart ripped out, and most of the collective of people who were there had their heart ripped out. But you know, it's a fun little trip. I'm looking forward to it, and this is a fucking team we can beat, man. And you know, I don't know if I'm stealing the words out of your mouth here, but this is a 6-point game.
Yep.
You know, this is a big match.
Like last night was
in regard to where we're at in the standings, who we're trying to fend off, and who we're trying to catch. And I need it, man. I need it. And I as far as the track record goes, like you look at this team, like we had the SKC debacle. You come back with the NYCFC game. That looks great. Before that, we had the LAFC game, and it's been going up and down. So hopefully I am anticipating going this way again, upwards with the trajectory here.
Yeah. And man, don't look now, but FC Dallas, after last night's 2-0 victory over LA Galaxy, just 4 points behind Austin FC. So again, looking at that table, right? Austin tied on points for 9th with Minnesota, behind on goal differential tiebreaker, a point back of Houston for 8th. But again, now some of those teams above them starting to slip away a little bit. You've got Seattle now again with that 6-pointer last night. They're up to 34. Vancouver got a win. They're up to 35. Portland got a win. They're up to 36. Rapids with a draw, 38. So like I think looking at the rest of this week from a wide view, anything less than 3 points is a disaster.
You're in trouble. If that's,
you got to get 3, if not 4 here.
This is definitely a tight situation. It's a very close race. You see fucking Sporting Kansas City coming on now, which is just absurd.
They're up to 23.
Absolutely insane that they're at 23 right now. Obviously, St. Louis and San Jose, they're out of the picture here. But man, it's tight.
Yeah, man. And again, like there's even if you got 0 points from the rest of this week, you are not out of at least that wild card race, especially with the new guys coming in. But the schedule does not get easy when we come back from the Leagues Cup break. And I'm not, again, playoffs is the goal. But now that we're here, 9th, 10th place, I want to get 6th, 7th, you know, by the time we get to the end of the season. So big game coming up, obviously, even outside of the rivalry aspect of this. And look, when Dallas canned Nico Estevez, they had 14 points from their first 16 matches. They've got 12 from their last 7, including last night's victory. So again, this is a team that maybe not finding their form, but certainly their footing of late, and just injecting themselves into this wild card conversation.
Yeah, and they would love nothing more than just boot us out, have our coach get fired as well, and try to like make us unravel a bit. So this is a huge matchup, man. And like you said, maybe not necessarily finding their form, but we understood the talent that this team had, and they're kind of leaning into that now, and not embracing it, but like it's rising to the top. You have a guy like Musa, obviously we know about Jesus. Tafari is fantastic. Guys up and down the field. So, yeah, man, it's going to be fun. We'll be there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, very much looking forward to going up there and seeing everybody else. It looks like we've got like around 100 fans, I think, that are going to be in that away section. I mean, I know it's July, it's hot as shit, and it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I get it that we're not, we ain't bringing 500 up there like we have at times in the past.
No megaphones.
Yeah, no megaphones.
Don't bring your megaphones, you idiots.
Jesus Ferreira has been out for a number of games now, though, and everything I can find points to him also missing this match. So again, they still have a lot of talent, right? Mm-hmm. You've got Musa, you've got Ilara Mendy, you've got Leggett and Ariola, right? And so in the grand scheme of MLS, these guys, this is still not an elite team, but Tafari and Ibiaga and Martin Paz in that, right? Yeah. This is still a very formidable side for a team like Austin. They just did exactly what we did to the Galaxy earlier in the season, the 2-0 shutout at home. So again, as long as they have no Jesus, I think this game is extremely winnable, even with the way that we play on the road.
I agree. I'm right there with you. This is a team that we can absolutely beat. No Jesus for them is huge, and you're gonna have to just control Musa, in my opinion.
And I think that the reason he came out at halftime last night with the 1-0 lead is because he was on yellow card accumulation caution. So maybe a little bit, kind of a cheeky move there by their interim head coach. Let's talk about us, though. We know no Brendan Heinzike, right, out on the red card suspension. We've still got, to my knowledge, 3 guys, Julio, Seba, and John, on yellow card accumulation caution. But outside of Brendan, right, I think you just slot Leo in. And do we run back the other 10 guys here? What do you think?
I think you're going to see a Finley start.
Okay. For Hodder or Owen? For
Owen.
Okay.
I think you see a Finley start here. And I would anticipate Hodder being on a 60-minute kind of leash in regard to the midfield. I just don't know who's going to show up at who's wearing that 6 jersey. I don't know who's going to show up when they're wearing that 8 jersey. You know what I mean? And in those types of situations, it's Johann Sebastian Baklava, the Punisher, who needs to be instituted to start laying some wood to people. I tell you what, who was that? Vargas, who cut Danny up and got past Alex and beat Julio. You would have got punished, brother.
His ass is going to be on the turf. Yeah,
you would have been punished if he was out there. So, I think that you could see him there. And again, I'm just flabbergasted and confused at the effort levels from Danny last night.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a chance to bounce back. And I think we see him out there, man. I think we see the same midfield. I think my only change is maybe Diego over Jassy.
I'm good with that. We gave Giassi the benefit of the doubt in regard to being hot and wanting him to, try to ride that streak. Again, this is another back line that is very active, very, very good in the air, arguably the best in the air that I've seen in this league with Tafari back there, who's a freak athlete. So I could see Diego here. I wasn't thoroughly impressed with what he did when he came out there. I remember one play in particular where, not to go back to that game, but, it was – we're searching for answers right now. We're searching for ways to score goals and generate goals. And if we got to keep this kind of rotation at the 9 going, I'm totally for that. But again, it's going to come down to the midfield for me, man. What are we getting out of 10? What are we getting out of 6? What are we getting out of 8? If it's 8, so I need to see something out of those guys.
I think just peeking ahead to Saturday, I think I want a Diego start up top here against Dallas. And then I want to put Zardes up against a very good back line of Charlotte with Addison Malanda, who just signed a contract extension, and put Zardes in there for some of that Bukhari service that I perceive to be coming. But we'll see. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, I guess, unless you have anything else to add here, E. How much is Austin FC winning by on Wednesday?
Man, I think the only way that we're going to be able to win this game is if it's a 2-1. I was going to say 1-0, but again, I respect their ability to score goals. I respect Petar Musa, so I think it's a 2-1 win for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go what your other selection may have been. I'm going to go 1-0. I think Austin gets it done. I think we finally break that win seal up there at Toyota Stadium. And maybe we'll go drive one of those Toyotas off in celebration or something. 2-1 for E, 1-0 for me. And we will see all of our friends at Toyota Stadium on Wednesday. Quick last business day here, E, because we knew FCito taking on Dynados last Thursday. You get that lineup. You do see both CJ and Jimmy. CJ, I want to say, played about 60 minutes in that one. Pinot was up top, Micah Burton in there, Bobo, Louis Jean, backline, Shaik and Deonda, and then Tony and Sal in the middle with Marcus in net. And this ends up being a 2-0 loss on the road, E. Red card for Anthony Deonda, which to my eye watching this game was another kind of maturity thing. But maybe the big difference here, right? We're getting on somebody like Driussi when, like you mentioned, 28, 29 years old. But Deonda's still a teenager, so yeah, a learning moment, I think, for our number 25 there for FC2. But once he went out and we were down a man, very little hope left, at least for me, watching that one. So a frustrating loss on the road there. But this team back in action. We'll preview their match against Loons 2. That one, I believe, is scheduled for Thursday as well. So getting on a little bit of a Thursday weekly schedule here for FCito.
You know, man, it's been a frustrating season for this FCito club. It's been a challenge to find any sort of chemistry, cohesiveness. And when you just don't have it and you're either trying to capture it for the first time or just recapture it because you got your first home win, it's a tall task. And that Houston team is one that enjoys playing us. They like to be physical, and it carries over. You see the red for Deonda there as well. And tough, very tough for them. I feel for those boys this season. It's been a tough one. They've lost some heartbreakers too.
Just got to keep battling. Still a lot of season left to go. So again, we'll preview that Loons 2 match on Thursday's episode. So maybe we should have planned that out better and previewed it today, since that match is happening hours after we record that Thursday episode. So finishing off with a little bit of the nonsense here. You were over an hour and a half on episode 159. Just updates on the bets. We tabulated that bad week, one of our worst weeks in a couple months, minus 5.4 units. Only one of the goal picks hit, and that was Cucho out there in that demolition of LAFC. So minus 5.4 units on the week. Now plus 4.56 on the season. So we'll take it. We'll keep rolling, and we'll have the next picks article out on Tuesday evening after that official injury report drops.
Respectable.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Hanging around that line, right? And that's the goal, that profit line.
Playoffs. And then last week of the season, we're going to take everything that we have and put it just on Cucho to score, because that shit is a lock.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else for you before we shut it down here on episode 159?
Yes. Shout out our boy, Iron Verde.
Oh, Jose, yeah.
You're awesome, man. All the art, the creative stuff that you do for this team, and like the things that you come up with, and seeing you wearing the fucking Thanos glove last night with the mask. We got a great picture. I hope I wasn't too, how do I put this? Inebriated there in the photo, but thank you so much for the pin. Also, if you don't know about him doing his little giveaway with the dispensary there, go check out his socials and everything like that to get you an entry. And just thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate the pin. I told you I was going to wear it today. Forgot.
Dude, I gotta go enter that myself. I saw that and I was like, dude, I want an Iron Verde pin, and then dispensary throwing in a player pin of your choice if you win that giveaway, I believe. Yes. So go follow Iron Verde. Go follow the dispensary. Very cool Austin FC stuff that they crank out over there. Yeah, man. I think that does it for us, right?
Yeah, we got to get out of here.
We will be back on Thursday, recapping Austin FC's matchup, the Copa Tejas Cup final up there in Frisco. Probably do a little short preview of Loons too, right there for the North End diehards that will get that episode in before that match kicks off. And of course, talking about everything else in between. Oh, we'll have a preview of Charlotte, which will include a lineup prediction that includes Osman Bukhari. It's almost here, E. It's an exciting week ahead, even as we leave the disappointing weekend that was in the rear view. Enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. We'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Thursday for another edition of the North End Podcast. Until then, he's E. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.